everyone, I'm Dr. D. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in transgender care. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about a topic that is perhaps a little bit more hot-heated, debatable, somebody might say controversial topic for many, and that is disclosure during dating. What I mean by that is whether trans individuals should disclose upon first date or prior to the first date that they are transgender, whether that disclosure should take place before or maybe a few days or maybe a few months into relationship. And it is kind of a debatable topic. It's a hot topic for a lot of people because it falls into the slippery slope of deception and what is deception and what isn't considered to be deceptive. I'm not going to go there today because the idea of deception is highly subjective. And to me personally, I mean, really, what isn't deceptive when you go on a first date with somebody? One can say that the makeup I wear is deceptive because it's really hiding my true features. So I'm not even going to go there. What I really want to talk about today, and in terms of this topic, I want to be less of a person today who is going to tell you what you should and shouldn't do, because that's up to you. That's up to all of you to decide what to do and what not to do. And I want really to be more a person in a role of somebody who has a lot of experience in a trans field, who can give you pros and cons of disclosing or not disclosing. So that way, after this video, you're going to be in a better position to be able to make a better decision about that for yourself. So that is my goal for you today. So let's talk about disclosure, right? And for a lot of, especially for a lot of trans-identified individuals who identify as trans women, who are incredibly passable, who are living their lives and don't really want to identify as trans per se, or don't want to disclose to people that they're trans, this can become kind of a challenge. This idea of, especially if you're attracted to men and you're in a hetero kind of normative relationship, that can be a challenge for a lot of people to go out there and to disclose their status, knowing that a lot of men, unfortunately, have a lot of internalized homophobia, and on top of that, a lot of internalized transphobia. And the same issue is also for the trans guys. This idea of going out there and disclosing your trans identity can be very difficult, and a lot of people don't really know what to do. A lot of people struggle. One of the biggest, I would say, one of the biggest challenges that trans people face are relationships and finding relationships and being in relationships, because we live in such hetero kind of relational normative society. People have a lot of internalized beliefs, and it makes it very difficult when we're looking for partners and we're looking for people to be in a relationship with. And a lot of people just can't bypass those internal beliefs and paradigms they have created for themselves. As a result, it makes dating very, very difficult. So what to do? Should you disclose or not disclose your trans identity? Like I said in the beginning of this video, disclosure is completely up to you. I'm a strong believer that it's completely up to you as individuals to decide whether you want to disclose or whether you want to never disclose your trans identity. That is just, in my personal opinion, something that's personal, and that's something, again, that is completely up to you. What I do know is that it's both of those, to disclose and not disclose, comes with pros and cons on each side. So let's discuss the first side. Let's discuss the side of disclosing immediately and what might happen when you disclose immediately. Well, when you disclose immediately, whether before the date or on the first date, that you identify as transgender, clearly some of you who are in the dating world and disclose immediately or choose to disclose immediately know what happens. What happens is usually you may experience something that you perceive as a rejection, where somebody not interested in dating or being with somebody who's transgender. I don't really like the word rejection, because I feel like when we're dating people and we're meeting people, I don't really think people have capacity to reject us yet because they don't know us. I feel like people are basically expressing their preferences, and we all have preferences, and having preferences is okay. It's okay to discern what you like and what you don't like. And so I don't necessarily see that as rejection. I see that more as people letting you know that they're not interested in dating transgender individuals. So that's one of the first things that you can experience when you disclose to somebody in the beginning of dating. Another thing that you might experience is a momentarily and a temporary a projection of that person's internalized transphobia in many different shapes and forms. And that can be incredibly unpleasant, incredibly traumatic, I would even say, and very painful. And I apologize. And I'm really sorry if you guys are experiencing that. I know for a fact you guys are experiencing that. And that's a horrible reality bubble of the world we live in. And so many people that are have and carry internalized transphobia. So those are the two primary things that I can think about that people can experience if they disclose in the beginning. Of course, another thing is that if you have a dating profile and you disclose in a dating profile that you're trans, another thing you may experience is you may experience people drawing to your profile because they have some kind of sexual fetish, or they want to try it out, or they want to see what it would be like to have an intimate encounter with somebody who identifies as transgender. That's another thing that you might experience. So all of those things come with disclosing in the beginning. So those are all cons of disclosing in the beginning. Now, what are the pros of actually coming out and disclosing in the beginning? Well, one of the pros is that you don't put in money and investment in getting to know individuals, and from beginning you know where people tend to stand. So I think that's a really huge plus, actually, because that way you know that moving forward, everything that you're investing into a relationship, and you know that this person is totally fine and comfortable, and it's completely normal in relationship to transgender people, just like most of us actually really should be. So that's a huge pro, I think, in the beginning. I think also having your status as identifying as transgender in your profile is very beneficial, because that way you also kind of winning out all the people who don't want to contact you because they don't feel that discomfort or internalized transphobia, and that way you don't have to meet them and you don't have to go through the personal disclosure. So those are the plus. Now, let's look at the other side of what some people tend to do. And again, that's totally up to you to decide whatever works for you. But some people will not disclose their transgender identity, and they will go on a few dates, or even will go into dating for a few months. And usually what I hear is that people will hope that I don't want to be judged, and I don't want to be perceived as a trans person. I don't want to be dehumanized. So I want somebody to get to know truly who I am on the inside, and then disclose to them, and then they can make a decision whether they want to be with me or not. Well, some of the cons of doing that, as we know, is unfortunately can be incredibly lethal and deadly. And we know that these cases have happened where somebody was in a relationship and then they disclosed their trans status, and the individuals they were with was so transphobic and so homophobic on the inside that they took matters into violence, and they ended up unfortunately killing that individual. And so the cons, as you can see, can be very drastic, because transphobia, internalized transphobia and internalized homophobia, the combination especially of two, create a very strong internal emotional charge. Usually when people have homophobia and transphobia, they may not even be aware that they have it. Usually the more aware somebody that they have it, the less emotionally charged it is. The less aware they are, the more unconsciously it's sitting inside, the more emotionally charged it is. Which means when you scratch the surface by coming out to them after a few months of dating, that emotional charge turns into rage, and there's never knowing how the person is going to behave. So this is not a matter of telling somebody after a few months of dating that, oh, by the way, I'm transgender, and then just calmly sitting down and saying, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry, I'm just not interested in dating trans people. It's never such a calm case. Usually it expresses itself in a form of aggression and violence. So that's a huge cons on this side, okay? Of course, when we think about what are some of the pros of coming out later, the pros for some people have turned out how they were thinking they would turn out, is that they got to know somebody, that somebody got to know them much more on a deeper level. And then when they, by the time they came out, that person already formed a bond with them, and they didn't really see it as a betrayal or any other things or deception or whatnot. The bond was already in place, and as a result, they were able to formulate relationships. So that's some of the pros. Another pro is that you don't have to experience this initial cutoff when you disclose on the first date. If the person doesn't really feel comfortable dating transgender individuals, you get step into a relationship, and you also get to experience yourself in a realm of relationship. So as you can see, both of the sides have pros and cons, right? So there's no ideal way to pick out. In my personal opinion, I lean a little bit more on the side of disclosing immediately or on a first date, only because I know what internalized transphobia and homophobia can do to a person, and knowing that it can turn lethal, it can turn incredibly violent and incredibly aggressive. It can take somebody's life, and for that reason, I don't think it's worth it. I also think that by coming out from the get-go, and dealing with people constantly or often, at least in dating, unfortunately I have to use the word often because it is often telling you that they're not interested in dating somebody who identifies as transgender. What happens with that is that they can actually make you a little bit more affirming your identity, make you feel a little bit more confident in who you are, because sometimes when we build out that callus on top of our emotional skin, that callus can become really much more stronger. So that's also another benefit of that. But again, like I said, disclosure when it comes to dating is completely up to you. Don't let anybody else tell you that what you need to disclose immediately, you need to disclose later after a few dates or whatnot. It's up to you. Again, what's deceptive is we're not going to discuss today, but that's such a big, broad topic, and who's to say what is and isn't deceptive. But in the end, I just really hope that all of you just think about your safety. I think safety is the key here. Sadly, we don't live in a society that is very gender inclusive. That's one. Sadly, we don't live in a society where people are capable of really working on their inner unconscious emotions. For that reason, they come up and we act them out. And sadly, when we act them out, we take matters into these drastic measures, and it becomes incredibly unfortunate and really unnecessary. So call me pessimist, but we live in a society where people still behave quite animalistic, and for that reason I don't want anybody to get hurt, and for that reason I'm cautioning some of you who do choose to disclose later. Just be aware of that. Be aware that that's a possibility, and if you do come out, make sure that when you disclose to that person, at least do it in a public place. Do it maybe like in a restaurant, or do it somewhere where there's people around, where you feel safe. If you're gonna do it, don't do it in a privacy, one-on-one, somewhere in your house, because you never know how people are going to respond. And I heard and read and we all know some horrific accounts of internalized transphobia coming out, and I wouldn't want you to be subject to that. So it's kind of like I said, it's not an easy topic. It has each side's benefits. Again, decision is completely up to you. I would love to hear from you. As you know, I'm very engaged with all of the comments you guys put out. Comment below. If you, which side do you lean toward? What has you been experience have been? Whether your experience has been to disclose immediately, how did that pan out? What did you learn from it? If your experience has been to disclose later in a dating, and how that pan out for you? So share below, comment below, let me know what your experience has been like. Let us, all of us, know what your experience has been like, because I noticed that all of us are learning from each other's experience, and I think that's really great. And I'll see you guys all next time. Bye.